Hey folks, this is Rob Wells here with you from the law office of Robert M. Wells. Our office helps out landlords and property managers deal with their landlord-tenant situations and problems. In this video, we're going to talk about whether or not committing waste in a property constitutes terminating a tenancy for just cause under the Tenants Protection Act of 2019. Now, before I begin, landlords, property managers, if you're facing a situation where you think your tenant might have committed waste for terminating their tenancy under the Tenants Protection Act, please feel free to reach out to us below. Now, let's begin. Now, question is, can you terminate a tenancy for just cause under the Tenants Protection Act for waste? I think I just gave it away in the intro over here. The answer is yes. What I didn't give away, though, to y'all is what is waste? And I think waste is kind of a misunderstood type of like scenario for a lot of landlords. I get a lot of owners that come into me and go, hey, Rob, my tenant tore up my entire unit. Like they just just made a mess. Like the tenant's kids drew all over the wall with crayons, and like my house is in like disarray. They don't keep the property clean, that type of deal. I think that's waste. And what I have to educate our landlords and property managers that come up with this issue is waste has a specific legal meaning in the Code of Civil Procedure. And what waste is in the legal sense, in the unlawful detainer or eviction sense, is your tenant has damaged the property to the point where the property has lost value, for example. And that's kind of hard to prove. Out of the hundreds of cases I've done over my career thus far, I might have had one case where actually there was waste committed, and it was due to a fire caused by a tenant. Let me give you a little war story here. So had a landlord where they had a couple of units, and the tenant apparently caught the kitchen on fire, probably doing something illegal like cooking up drugs or something like that, because when my client contacted me, the tenant did not call the police or the fire department. Rather, a few days after the fire, they notified my landlord, hey, we had a fire here. Landlord comes in, and the fire got so hot, it melted all the like kitchen fixtures, like the lights and stuff like that. They fused together, basically. There was a bunch of smoke damage in the unit, and the kitchen was completely destroyed. Like the cabinets were just gone. They were just charred. And it got so bad that PG&E, our local gas and electric utility out here, basically shut off the utilities because it was a safety hazard keeping the utilities on. That is something that would be waste under the Code of Civil Procedure. And this case actually did get contested, and we actually had to bring information into court for the judge to understand why waste was committed. And in waste type of evictions, you have to actually bring expert testimony, from someone that knows like rental values and property values, such as like a realtor or like a real estate broker. And in this case, we had to prepare a broker to come into court and testify. Listen, the unit before tenant rented out was worth $500,000, for example. With it being fire damaged and charred, basically the property is worth $400,000 now because there's $100,000 worth of damage inside. That's what you have to prove on a waste case and an unlawful detainer action in court. And there's specific case law that dictates that. It's mere presentation of damage alone is not sufficient to evict a tenant. I'm not going to get into the legalese and the case law, but that's kind of how it is. So basically, that's where if you have damage like that, where you have a diminished property value now because of what happened and the damage was the tenant's fault, that's a waste case. this is something that you could bring an eviction about, and that kind of rarely happens. I guess you could have a tenant that basically, something that else that would qualify as waste is, let's say you have a single family home and the tenant just demos like one side of the home and like literally just cuts out the wall. Literally, and you can basically see exposed, the house is exposed, basically. That would be something that would be waste, like actual destruction of property, basically. So, if you have something like that, hopefully you never do have something like that. I've never, out of hundreds of evictions, I've never run into situations like that. It's rarely occurs, and I know a lot of landlords are so worried about like, hey, their place getting trashed, that type of deal. That's the type of eviction we're talking about. That's what we're talking about waste. So if you have a situation like that, hopefully I'm going to knock on wood for y'all right here that you never have to deal with something like that. Please feel free to reach out to, us or competent landlords counsel, and then, we can coach you through that. Okay. Until next time, we'll talk to you then. Okay. Thanks.